Happy New Year, everybody. It's me, Teri Hunter. We're back live after 2 weeks off. Thank you for joining me. Let me just adjust my seat. I'm getting myself a little ready here. All righty. Okay. So here on Sunday mornings, 11 a.m. Pacific time, we get the angel's advice for traversing the upcoming week's transits. We go by whole sign Western astrology. So these are based on your rising sign when I talk about house. If you don't know your rising sign, you just need your exact time of birth, location, and you can plug that into any one of the free birth calculators on the internet, and you'll get that information very quickly. So it started off as a kind of a sluggish beginning, at least for me it has. Good morning, Natalia. Good to see you. Happy New Year. Good morning, small wildflowers. Happy New Year. Good to see everybody. Okay, so Mars is retrograde. Mercury is retrograde. And I talk about these things, and yet when they come into my actual life, I don't necessarily compute it. So here it is, the first time in 9 years, I start the new year with everybody canceling their appointments. And I started to go into a little bit of I started to go into a bit of an old story, okay? And I'm telling you all this for a reason. I know it sounds silly, and then as I started to go into the old story, I'm pushing a shopping cart down the street, begging for food, the whole big sad story. I started to laugh at myself, and I thought, oh my gosh, we have the planet of action and the planet of communications, both retrograde at the beginning of the year, and we have a full moon. I'm like, okay, just relax. And I tried to get my Christmas tree down all the way. I had, extenuating circumstances, so I didn't do that. But I got a lot of stuff done that I talk about in my brain doing all the time. But the most important thing, I think, was really reflecting on where my brain goes naturally, where the default thought goes to. And it's always something super challenging. And I don't know if you guys saw, but I posted yesterday a little bit about this being a 7-year. And I think that's super significant because today is a 7-day, and we are starting back. Good morning, Gita, starting back today. So here, I made a little, let me cover this up, my little note. So I'm just showing you how I get this. So numerology, okay, is another school of thought, that tells us things. And I don't know if you can see this, but January 8th, 2023 is a 1 plus 8 plus 2 plus 0. And I put that in for clarification. Plus 2 plus 3 is a 16. And the 1 and the 6 reduces down to a 7. And then I put in my personal birth date for the year I'm going through, which is a 6. I think this is significant for a couple of reasons. I don't know if y'all saw the Cancer full moon, the first part 1 video, but I got a little sidetracked and I started to notice that we are having a series of 7 full moons at the 16th degree. I'm seeing crazy themes here. I'm seeing so much synchronicity. And I feel like this is a time to kind of wake up. And I say it this way because when I started the new year, I went into pattern. I went into my imprint. I went into vulnerability to loss, poverty, the whole bit. And then when I stopped and I thought, where am I now? Where was I 19 years ago when this transit happened of the nodes, all of these little things. And I started to collect myself. Meaning I started to come into the present moment and realize that my awareness, my evolution is all coming up to implement to the higher vibrations of these dynamics, to really give myself an opportunity to reflect, to have introspection, to seek a deeper truth within myself as I've evolved. So now we go into what does the 7 mean? I'm just going to touch on this quickly. And then I'm going to tell you, I don't think there's a lot of activity this week astrologically that isn't sort of still in an in-between stage. That's why I want to give you this bit of information to add another piece of the pie or a tool into the chest for you to be aware of. Because the 7 is a very significant number. First of all, the seventh day God rested after he created Earth. We have the 7 chakras. We have the 7 deadly sins. We have, oftentimes people talk about the 7 divine laws, although there are 12. There are 7 clearly defined colors in the rainbow. There are 7 continents on within our world. 7 is a prime number, which is very interesting to me. And then we have the 7 wonders of the world. So 7 is a theme that goes beyond just, we have 7 days in a week as well. So that's interesting to me. So the 7 is a combination here with those full moons of the 1 and the 6. What are my thoughts? The 6 representing my service, my enslavement, the 6th house energies. Okay. And this is a year to really reflect and to seek a deeper truth as to, am I able to really connect with what I want to experience? And if there's a wobble in my energy, can I give myself enough grace to kind of rest about it and allow myself to sort of allow my inner being to catch up? The other thing I wanted to do is I pulled the tarot cards for this week, and then I thought to myself, I wonder if the 7s are left in the deck. And I thought, if I'm going to talk about the number 7, because it's significant to this year, and today is a number 7 day. So I went to the tarot deck, and I didn't look at the cards I'd already pulled because I never do, but I did. Every one of the 7s was available. So here we have the 7 of Wands, which is a guy who's in the middle of 2 worlds. We see his feet very, very far apart, and there's a little river in between. And there's him feeling defensive in some way and not knowing why. This felt super powerful to me because here we are gathering new inspirations. We're getting new information. This represents the fire signs and sort of this in-between place between the world I've lived in and the world I want to live in. Then we go to the 7 of Cups, and then we go into our emotional body, where when we consider all our options, there's no good solution. It appears potentially that there's loss on every side or a win on every side. And this is requiring me into my intuitive body as I go into my unknowing. Then we go into the 7 of Swords, where this guy literally has to take what he can carry with him and go his own way. Go away from the herd. Maybe he has to leave some things behind, but ultimately there is more happiness as he trusts himself. This is the 7 of Thought. And then finally, in the minor arcana, we go into the 7 of Pentacles, where now we have created something, and now we're considering how we want to proceed forward. This doesn't necessarily need to be in this order, but here we're seeing a theme of being in 2 places, in the human experience and the structures that are expected of us and the roles we've played up until now, and the version that we want for ourselves and what we expect of ourselves now. Interesting. The 2 major arcana cards that represent the 7 are the Chariot, which is the Cancerian energy. That's the 16 of these 7 full moons in a row. And there's the Tower, a complete opportunity to change my life as a result of an epiphany. The Tower is also, to me, very Uranian because it's, lightning striking. There is this genius epiphany. And this is what I think this year has to offer. I think in many ways, many of us will start to, kind of awake from this slumber of just, in a very trusting way, giving our power up to others. And rather than, really going from one extreme to another, we're going to start to assess our own power within each situation. The 7 of the Chariot represents victory through an assessment of the polarities. There is movement without movement. It also represents, you can see the moon, the crescent moons are on the shoulders, and we see the stars above him. This is about coming to a deeper understanding of your own emotional and intuitive inner knowing. And then here, this is where we see our life. It can appear to turn upside down, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's negative. It means that the epiphanies could be that there has been an imprint of unworthiness. There has been an imprint of effort and having to struggle for something. And as you become aware of that, then you become aware of, am I efforting? Am I struggling? Am I deserving in this moment? And just that awareness offers an opportunity to shift the energy. When we move into the Aquarian age, the big revolution is not what happens to us. It's our knowing that we are co-creators. And the more we align our thoughts, the more we align them to and our thoughts align to our emotions. Okay. And it's never about how am I going to get there? How is it going to be? Where is it going to come from? It's how does it feel? It feels fabulous. It feels like it flows. It feels easy. It feels effortless. It feels fabulous. I feel gratitude. I feel magnificent. All of these energies. And that's what I think is going to happen in this year. When Saturn moves into Pisces, oh my goodness, this is going to be so fabulous. At the same time, it's going to be crazy disruptive, but we will talk about that later. So, all right. So I've covered the number 7 for this week. I think it's important because it's a 7-year. Let me quickly kind of go over the astrological aspects this week, because it feels like sort of an in-between week where the only real major significant thing is Mars is going to move forward. Mars has been stationing at 8 degrees for quite some time, and its retrograde feels as if it's been, in the headlines constantly. So that is going to feel a little bit better when Mars starts to get its pep in its step again. And I can't wait for that, because the dark side of my mind can really get stoked. Good morning, Stephen. Happy New Year. Good morning, Katerina. Good morning, Scarred Owl. Good morning, Joshua. It's great to see you again in the room. I haven't seen you in a while. Oh, well, congratulations on your Saturn return. That's an interesting time. Okay, so this week we have Venus in Aquarius at 7 degrees, and as of tomorrow, she's making her trine to Mars retrograde. And it'll be exact on the 9th and the 10th, and then we know that Mars is going to go stationary on the 12th. So I think that this is really Venus and Mars. Mars retrograde in Gemini almost feels like it might listen to Venus's input with a little bit more of a open ear. Normally Mars is very clear where it wants to go, even if where it wants to go is off a cliff sometimes, but it's ready to take action. And here Venus is kind of slowing the conversation down and providing epiphanies to Mars. She's an Aquarius. She's ready to liberate herself from some chains that have bind her, and not about the material aspect, but more about her self-worth. She's starting to understand. When she was traveling with Mercury for quite some time in 2022, she started to look more at what her thoughts and what her self-worth was providing for her in the way of bounty in the outside world. So here, I think with this trine going on, it's going to be where they start having a conversation about, because I think Mars has some self-worth issues as well. So to me, I really think this is about, am I giving myself permission to tell the new story, or am I somehow still operating on an old story? It's funny because as I went through this week I've never had a new year or a week that I did not deliberately take off work where people didn't book or where people just canceled. And as that transpired, we had storms this week, here in California. There was outside circumstances, but it was so funny what it triggered within me. So this offered me a deeper truth. What is the truth? The truth is I'm not going under. This is a temporary moment that offers me an opportunity to anchor in my inner knowing of my own personal safety as a result of my willingness to focus in a different direction. Because the human is imprinted with fear, challenge, undeserving. You're basically a piece of POS until you prove yourself in the material world to other humans, and they still judge you. So I think this is what Venus and Mars are talking about. We're talking about two air signs having a trine, and that feels so like Gemini rules the monkey mind in its challenging energy. And I think our tribe and the tribes of the new astrology are really going to start to anchor into the higher vibrations of these planets. And as we do that, we shift our focus into their higher vibration, which then capitalizes on it. So when we go through what is called a challenging aspect, we won't see it that way anymore. We'll see it as a divine disruption that offers us a deeper truth, the 7-year, into where our vibration is, our frequency is. And as we do that, we're going to become more and more powerful co-creators. And people are going to say, how do you do that? And you're going to say, I'm not doing anything. I'm aware of my being energy. I'm aware of what I believe. I'm aware of my attitude and my disposition. I'm aware of my own imprint. And rather than trying to release it or resist it, I know how to surrender to it and self-care during that period. And that's what that 16 degrees from October until basically April, we have every full moon is at 16 degrees. I really hope you will go look at that video. It really wasn't a full moon video, which is why I did a part 2, because I did the readings for the Cancer full moon in part 2, because I concentrated so much on the 7 and the synchronicity of those full moons. All right. So then we also have this week, we have Mercury retrograde at 15 degrees Capricorn, making an exact trine to Uranus at 15 degrees retrograde, Uranus retrograde at 15 degrees in Taurus. So, am I seeing a theme here where the 15 reduces down to a 6, which is my service? I also think the 15 represents the Geminian energy, which is my thoughts. And so that is what I believe is this year is about. Seeking a deeper truth that may be masked by the current structures that will continually pummel me with information and with statistics and with vibrations that say I don't have power. And yet one who is connected to their inner being is more powerful than millions who are not. So I really want to offer you that. Okay, let's go into our readings. Lucky is starting the new year with Lucky has Jupiter and Venus in Taurus. And I got to tell you, this kid is so obnoxious about his food. It's all about presentation. I could put the same bit of food in 3 different types of vessels, in the dog bowl, on a natural plate, throw it on the carpet, and he'll only eat it one way. He's so funny. All right, here we go. We are starting with our Capricorns. Happy birthday, Capricorn. I didn't get to really tell you that in person because we were still in Sagittarius season when we had our final, I think, last year. So happy birthday, welcome. And our first tarot card for Capricorn is the Hierophant. Now, this is very interesting because while this doesn't necessarily represent Saturn or Capricorn, it represents Taurus actually, but it represents structures. It represents religious structures that require a belief outside of myself, things that I've learned, things that I have experienced through, when you're a little kid and your parents take you to church every Sunday, you really don't know why you're going, but you go, and then you start to develop a belief. You start to develop a certain philosophy. So let's see, Capricorn, what Spirit wants to say about your philosophy, because we still have Pluto transiting your house. Venus recently had a very intense conversation about a week ago with Pluto before she went into Aquarius. And then Mercury is still retrograde, and Mercury will not move forward until the 18th. And when Mercury goes back over and meets with Pluto, I think we're going to have a real new conversation about our structures, about what we are building and moving forward with. And that's going to start with the structure of our mind. Okay. The other thing I was thinking about the sevens is the seven naturally rule is the seventh house. And of course, we think about it as partnership. We think of it as marriage. But, oftentimes I think of it as more about how we work in cooperative relationships, our diplomacy. How do we foster the peace of our own mind, of our own heart? And I think that there's something very significant about that. Because when we get to April, we're going to have a new moon at the 0 degree of Aries, and that's going to be a reset and a new beginning for everybody. All right, Capricorn. What is the Hierophant? How are we defining that? Our first angel is Desiree. The second is Chantal. The third is Rosetta. And the final is Athena. Good morning, Dusk. Good to see you here today. Happy New Year. Okay, Capricorn, Desiree is being joined by the Truth card. Chantal is being joined by the Goblin. Rosetta is being joined by the Dog. And Athena is being joined by the Hawk. So I want to offer it this way because I think what the Hierophant is really talking about for my Capricorn, rising moon, sun, and stelliums is your belief system. It does not necessarily have to be a religious belief system, but I do think that this is representing what you believe and the viability of how your belief system supports the viability of your dreams and what you want to build in the material world. Now, the thing that this last couple of weeks, the holidays, is so crazy. Literally on the day of the Mercury went retrograde, I think it was on the 29th of December, is the second time in 2022 that I got called an old lady out of nowhere for no reason. Now, I tell you this, and I could go into the whole story, but I'm not going to bother to do it because it was so random to me and just a shot in the dark. And when I believe in the laws of attraction, so I thought to myself, how did you attract that? Where is this random, insult coming from? And then I thought, well, why am I assuming that being an old person is an insult? There's an old structure that gets to be broken down. Because without this being an old woman now, I wouldn't have the wisdom that I have. When I was younger, I was so Aryan. I was so full of fire. I'm telling you this because Capricorn, you're rewriting what you believe about yourself. And a lot of what you believe about yourself may be built on an old story of what Capricorn has represented. Obligatory duty, not enjoying yourself and only thinking of others and the greater good based on someone else's definition of what that good is. Because what Spirit is saying for you this week, as we're seeing a trine between Venus and Aquarius and Mars, which is going to station to go direct in Gemini, then we see Uranus having a talk with Mercury, okay, how I'm thinking, and Mercury and Uranus are aligned. Mercury is the lower octave of Uranus. So there's a lot of brilliant opportunities for epiphanies as you dig to a deeper truth before you take action in the physical world, before you pound the week in, because Chantal is talking about love and the Goblin is talking about edging God out. I do not believe that this is about intimate love, but the love of self and the permissions you give yourself to believe that you're viable and that what you want to build in the material world is doable, beable, and experienceable in your world as you see it. Because there is, this is what I want to say too. Capricorn, if you're trying to birth children in some way and you've had challenges, many of the structures that we go to support us in that endeavor really kind of trigger fears. And I think that there's an opportunity for Capricorn to really see where outside structures are triggering fears about your viability, whatever the dream may be. And the reason I say that is because the goblin is going to tell Capricorn what you love doesn't matter. Okay. And that's where you're edging God out, because what you love really matters. And loving yourself as you endeavor anything is what makes you a leader. It's what really shifts you. Then we see the dog, unconditional love, loyalty, and sincerity. And we see Rosetta. Now, Rosetta could represent that you want to bring children into the world. But for those of us that are not of childbearing years, it could be about loyalty to self, and regardless of the conditions, because Athena is saying to lovingly assert yourself. And here's the hawk asking you to rise above the situation to see a deeper truth within yourself and the viability of your own physical apparatus. Okay. Because I want to offer it this way. There is a wave, and has been, and which is what I think is part of this 7 year of disempowering information coming through. And in epidemic portions, every single facet of your physical being is going to crash and burn these days if you don't take something outside of yourself to support it. And no one is talking about food and how that supports us. At least if they are, it's not in the mainstream media. So here, I think that Capricorn is going to go through an opportunity this year to really examine the structures around you, and if they work for you, and if they support the truth of who you are. So here we are, 63 years old. Okay. I can't even tell you how this birthday triggered me to think about my family history, where the people started having heart attacks and dropping dead, or being worse yet, I'd rather drop dead, incapacitated and stuck in some home, drooling out of a cup. And I'm like, is that my story? Because that's my family history. That's a Capricorny thing. And then I started to say, no, I've never, ever been in the same school of thought as this. And then I got taken back in my mind to being in my grandparents' backyard, talking to my cousins and telling them I was going to live to be the oldest crusty old lady. And, and at the time it was like 1968. Okay. So where am I going to default? Am I going to default to my inner knowing, or am I going to default to the structures around me that support my disempowerment? That's where I'm going. So, and as the epiphanies come, then you should be so excited, Capricorn, because you have the tenacity to persevere. And that's awesome, because in this moment, it's going to take a bit of persevering. Welcome, Kelly. So good to see you. Welcome to the room and our Sunday show. This is our first back. It's kind of nice to have a couple weeks off. What do you think, Small? Was it good for you? Kind of sleep in another 10 minutes on Sunday morning before we're running around. All right, here we go. Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And for those of you that might be new to my show, my channel, I like the moon second more than the sun, because the moon is our emotional body, and we are emotional creatures. And for us to ignore our emotions and to think that we manifest in a really pure and expeditious way when our emotions are all churning up, it doesn't work. So as we look at that, we can start to, we look at our transits, we can start to assess from a more empowered place. So let's look at Aquarius. What's our tarot card this week? It is paying attention to the detail. The Eight of Pentacles here is all about, there's a certain amount of manifestation that's taken place. You have created a certain amount of material, I don't even want to call it bounty, but whatever you're building in the material world, you have a certain amount of it already built. Now, this is about fine tuning. This is about sort of assessing and reviewing the parameters of it. And I want to offer it this way, because as I have done my work and as I've grown, I've now really more authentically claimed myself as an astrologer. I was a little intimidated for a while to do that. And yet it's very, very natural to me. I've done it for a long time, and I always put my own spin on everything. And that's very Aquarian to put your own spin on things. So I want to offer it this way because I think the 8 representing bounty and this looking at the fine details may see you wanting to implement new structures or new dynamics into what you're building that you may not have considered before, or you may not have been really ready to birth. Because if I would have just blown out as an astrologer, I think I would have fumbled more. And I think over these last few years, because I've had some, regret. Did I waste my time on the other channel, Lotta's channel, for 3 years? And I don't think so. I think I got a lot of information. I got to build a lot of relationships with you guys. And I was not personally ready for the move. And I think that's something that we don't always consider as humans, that we have to be aligned to our own evolution. Otherwise, if we move too fast and we create too much bounty before we believe it, we can blow it up. Okay, let's go. I missed you guys too. I was really excited to come back. I think it was good to take a little bit of a break. I missed the interaction. I missed hearing from you all. All right, Aquarius, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Your first angel is Sonia. The second is Bethany. The third is Ray. And the final is Shanti. I did a lot of videos. I don't know if you guys saw them, but I did videos, and I think it was the Sagittarius monthly. Someone made a comment, and every once in a while when they make a comment, I go, oh, what was that? I don't remember what I say. It's all a lot like just channeling a bit. So I went back to watch it, and there was an orb in the video. And I got to tell you, it was I was like so excited that I found it because I want to offer it this way for everybody. But Aquarius, you rule the stars, you rule innovation, you rule on some level a connection to that which cannot be seen. Because of all the signs in the zodiac, you're the one that is living in the material world in a very open and expansive way before we go back as energy into the collective. So there's an awareness, which can make you feel alien because you're like in two different worlds. Because Sonia is about the connection to the other side. And now we see the network. And I want to offer it this way because I think this is really about going deeper into the detail of what you want to birth from a more I don't want to just call this the other side like it's your team as much as this inner knowing of your innovative way of thinking. While it can sometimes make you feel alien in the human world, I believe that the human population is ready for this. And your willingness to go down to a deeper level of authenticity will bring bounty. So let's see. Bethany is with the disruption card. Ray is with the Lady of the Lake. And Shanti is with the King. Okay, so this is what I want to say too, because Aquarius, I don't think of Aquarius moon as particularly emotional. I mean, there's so many different dynamics in the chart that can shift that a bit. But because of the scientific nature of Aquarius, because it's sort of this, explorer, I'm going out into space where there's nothing. So there's a sense of the unknown that eclipses it's like a curiosity is the way I want to put it. So this is where I'm going, because I think this is about getting a deeper relationship with your team, with your inner knowing, with your soul's calling, with the intention of why you came and decided to be incarnate at this time. And as you get down to that deeper level of truth, I think you're going to discover something about yourself that may initially cause a disruption. And I want to offer it this way because the feelings of we talk about Aquarius ruling the nervous system, and in that respect, ruling panic attacks and ruling situations that make me feel uncomfortable. But I also believe that's a part of your inner knowing that's saying, a deeper truth to your soul. So as you start to pay attention to what you need, you may feel a certain disruptive energy, but this gives you a real opportunity to dig deeper into your inner knowing, to find your power there, and to trust that this storm is something that is necessary in order to break down the human structures of disempowerment and to implement new individualistic energies that really support a bigger version of humanity. Because ultimately we have Shanti, the angel of peace, and then we have the king, which is about justice and karma and balance. And I believe that the balance is an understanding of the ebb and the flow, the understanding of when I'm going through a disruptive period, where am I going deeper into the details of what this is? Because Aquarius, while you are super you're clever, you're genius. You represent so many things that in some respects do remove you from the herd animal, the human experience that is mundane. And I feel like at the same time, you're so inspirational. And when you feel that sense of not belonging, are you also seeing the belonging and what you bring to the table? Because I think that's the deeper details. And I think that's where spirit is offering you a connection so that you can feel a sense of peace as you usher in an example of balance. And I want to say this too, and I kind of want to hit it home. I think that with Aquarius, especially when you start to feel nervous or unsure of yourself, or that nervous system starts to go, ooh, I don't know, that's when I really think it's about looking deeper into what you believe about yourself, because what you may see is you're about to go in a very innovative direction that may further distance you from what appears to be your support system. But if they can't support your evolution, are they your support system? And I think just the awareness of that could bring a sense of peace, because you start to see that an apple is an apple and an orange is an orange, and you can't ask one to be the other. So you start to understand maybe the other party in a way that doesn't villainize them or villainize yourself, but just sees you're vibrating at a different energetic level. Okay. All right, here we go. On to our Pisces, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Our tarot card for Pisces is the Queen of Wands. Passion, inspiration, nurturing of passions and inspirations and creativity. And what does Pisces rule? It rules creativity, imagination, fantasy, dance, music. Let's see what Spirit has to say here. All right, Pisces, our first angel is Bethany. The second is Archangel Gabriel. The third is Seraphina. And the final is Grace and Antoinette. Bethany is being joined by the Birth and the Rebirth card. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the Eagle. Seraphina is being joined by the Fire Fairy. And Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the Partnership card. I think this is really, really an interesting energy, because I want to offer it this way. Pisces has the natural ruler, Neptune, transiting the last few degrees, will be there still for quite some time. And Jupiter just left Pisces. And I feel as if during this period of time, there has been an opportunity for Pisces to nurture their more creative side, the passions that they want. And at the same time, there is this kind of interesting feeling of taking others into consideration while I'm musing on my own creation. Because Bethany is the card of self-care, and there's the Birth and the Rebirth card. And I think what is an opportunity for Pisces is that Pisces rules empathy. It rules people who are empaths. They feel other people's energy. It rules compassion. And so sometimes when other people's energy gets very dense and heavy, it creates a wanting to escape. Okay, wanting to be away from all of that. And I feel as if when I look at the Queen of Wands, I think that Pisces is being offered an inspiration, a passion, and again, it feels like the spark of the divine coming in and reminding me that I can go into everybody's big bad story, but will I serve them by going into, because it's time for Pisces to rebirth themselves, to put themselves at the top of the list of the two, the signs that rule. Cancer and Pisces, to me, sometimes have a little bit of a slippery slope of over loving other people to their detriment because they're not loving themselves enough to put up some healthy boundaries. And here, I feel as if with this opportunity to rebirth yourself in a way that what feels good for me? What do I need for myself? What do I require? Am I being fueled and fed in all my relationships, not just the intimate partnerships, all the situations where there are others involved? Because Archangel Gabriel is a Geminian energy for me. It rules communications. It rules my insecurities. And here's the eagle. And the eagle is like saying, are you going to sacrifice yourself for the illusion that other people, I don't want to say they don't value you, but people only value us as much as we value ourselves. And while we, I'm not saying that if someone doesn't value us, that we don't value ourselves, but there can reveal energetic disconnects that aren't about placing blame, but just allowing them to be where they are. We don't vibrate the same, because I think this is about Pisces starting to claim themselves. And when Saturn goes into your house in March, I think we're going to see some real structures about that. Like Saturn's going to be a little bit tough on you because it's going to say, you don't get to cry about this. You get to see the wisdom of it instead. And in doing so, it unleashes you and breaks up an old feeling of being more vulnerable to the other than I am to myself. Because in the angel's advice, we see a similar energy to the Queen of Wands. Again, the fire fairy is about positive and being optimistic. And here it brings more happiness into the group dynamic. And it's because you're taking care of yourself in a more independent way, a more Arian way, a more Leo way, a more Sagittarian way. That's the fire signs. Because here is Grace and Antoinette talking about compassion. And if anybody represents compassion, it's Pisces. And then there's the partnership. And I don't think this is the having compassion for your partner. I think this is about coming into partnership with the compassion you have for yourself as you rebirth yourself in a more intentional and loving way. Like this, let's just say, Pisces, you surrender to the idea that I love dance, I love ballet, I love poetry, I love these things that make me feel whole and rich. And while I see other people join, competitions or do things that support that story and start to carve out careers for themselves, why not me? I think this is about coming into alignment with your own creativity, your own excitement about birthing your passions into the world. And if you start to think about that now, then you have the ability to really build that when Saturn comes into your first house. So exciting, but also super scary, because if Saturn comes in and you're still buying into all those old structures and Saturn's old way of being, because Saturn vacillates, Saturn's like, I'm super supportive of you with whatever you pick, but I'm going to hold your dang feet to the fire, man. I'm going to make sure that you work hard, that you are devoted to that endeavor. And that's where it's like, because if your motivations are based on something that isn't pure, then some point you'll hit a wall with that. So I think this is a real rebirth of Pisces in a very aligned, creatively, imaginatively way, aligned to the self. And as you go through the journey, believing in yourself, not sure of yourself, you'll realize that every time you go through a dip when you're not sure of yourself and you come back up, you'll be like, I am so much stronger than I was before. And then you'll start to see your your thoughts align. One of the things that I think, I don't know if you guys are noticing, but I've been doing a lot of videos, and I don't mean to do them, but I get nervous. I get scared. I've been in scarcity. I go into meditation. In meditation, I get this idea for something. I literally get up out of my meditation and start to implement it. And what I'm aware of is that that exercise shifts my focus into the truth of where I want to go versus where I'm sitting right now. And then stuff starts to happen. Okay, hope that helped, Pisces. Let's go on to our Aries. Lots of stuff going on in Aries because it's time to transform Chiron from the wound to the gift. And as Jupiter starts to get some gas over there, I'm going to do a whole video on that, Joshua, because I'm kind of excited about it, but I did touch on it in the yearlies. So if you want to know how it might affect you, go look at your rising signs 2023 yearly overview. In that video, I covered Saturn. I just touched on Saturn moving into Pisces, Pluto moving into Aquarius for a few months, Jupiter moving into Taurus, and the change of the nodes. And I did a quick touch on all of those, and then I'm going to do more in-depth ones for you as we move forward. Okay, so here we go. Our tarot card for Aries is the World. Oh, this is a reward card. And I want to offer it this way because the eagle in the corner, we don't often associate Scorpio with the eagle, but it is one of the totems of Scorpio. And here what I see is this, I see Leo, the lion's courage. I see Taurus's tenacity. I see the human representing the thought, the human consciousness here. And here is spirit, this sort of intuitive knowing. And this reward comes as a willingness to be vulnerable to that which is important to me. So let's look and see, because as Jupiter transits Aries until May, this is a bounty, and this is an opportunity to expand and to really, dig into who am I and what am I and what do I want for me? That's this big Jupiterian energy. We also have the United States has its Chiron in Aries as well. And if I remember correctly, it's at 20 degrees. So we're going to see the environment of the United States come up on this transit of Jupiter on its Chiron. So this is also going to contribute to our opportunity in this 7-year to assess the deeper truth of ourselves and what resonates as truth within us. Okay. Oh, well, is that music? Is that how we're saying it? Like kitty music hour? Yeah, take care of yourself. Be good to yourself. I don't believe in resolutions. It feels very resistant energy to me. So I just want to add into my existence. So let's look at Aries. Where is there an opportunity? Aries rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Where is there an opportunity for there to be a reward coming? Layla, spending time in nature. Isabella saying, yes, the timing is right. Archangel Uriel dealing with frustration and anger. And Shanti, the angel of peace. So we got to know that your ruling planet has been in Gemini for quite some time. And, Mars wants to move along. And even Gemini, while it's a very interesting house to be in, Mars can get bored going back and forth in the house. And so there could be a series of frustrations that has happened about that. But it's also giving you a glimpse into where that frustration really lies. Again, this is a year to seek the deeper truth, the truth underneath the truth. Layla and Merlin offering alchemy, justice, and balance. Isabella is being joined by the High Priestess. Archangel Uriel is being joined by the Restriction card. And Shanti is being joined by the Wealth card. So I'm an Aries rising, and I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast that I've been, literally like I've never had, a week since I started my business where nothing happened. I mean, maybe a few days here and there, but nothing. And I watched myself sort of go down this dark path in my head. And then all of a sudden I had this epiphany. My ruling planet is retrograde in the house of activity, house of everyday activity. Relax, I said to myself. Just do those things that you never do. Clean out that drawer, clean out the refrigerator, try to get the Christmas tree down, whatever the case is. Being aware of my frustration and then being aware of my environment around me made me realize I don't have 100%. I'm co-creating. I'm not 100% creator. So if I'm walking up against a big headwind, what am I doing when I'm pushing up against it? I'm not helping myself. And this epiphany offers reward, because here's Merlin bringing magic as I look deeper into what my intentions are, when I want to move forward and I can't, what is that really signaling in me? 90% of the time it's signaling there's a fear. If I don't move, something's not going to happen. If I don't push, something's not going to happen. And this is a little bit of the challenge with Aries. So now when I look back and I go, where is my real power coming from? My power is coming from the identification of what is my belief before I take action. Because if I believe I have to do something, just the have to alone or the should is an alarm or an alert that the platform is not at its highest vibration for manifestation. When you feel excited about something, when you get to do something, it changes everything. So here, Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right for this new venture. Happiness follows your expectations. And then there's the High Priestess. This is, yes, the timing is right to follow your inner knowing, to make true sense of the idea that Aries rules passion. And am I writing this story on passion, or am I writing it on fire that has to get it done in order to prove my value to the rest of the world? Because here Archangel Uriel is dealing with frustration and anger and resentment, and there's a restriction card. And it's time to put a pause on that. And being an Aries, when I get frustrated or when I get feeling scared and or vulnerable to scarcity, I can go back to an old historic tale of woe. And does that serve me? No, it doesn't. So my awareness of that doesn't serve me isn't about resisting that old story or that feeling, but rather, there it is again. Now I'm going to go this direction, because if I keep going here, is that really helping me? No, I'm ready to receive the reward. Saturn is on my Chiron, and this is the third time. It was forward in Aquarius and it retrograde now. And I was saying to Saturn yesterday, okay, I'm ready for the reward, baby. I've done the work. So here it is, Aries. Shanti is the angel of peace, and here is harmonious wealth. Your now awareness that your ruling planet has been doing a ditty in Gemini, and all your forward motion may not have been at you're not able to completely drive the bus of moving the story forward. So if there's a reason the story can't move forward, my willingness to seek that gives me more peace of mind. The environment is not fertile. It's not always us. Sometimes it's out here. So this is why, if I tried to get my Christmas decorations down and get my tree down this last week, I would have been fighting the rain, the wind, the storms. I couldn't do that. So I did what I could do in this moment. And then I said to Spirit, now I'm being vulnerable to the idea that I can't move everything forward. And yet there's still reward being teed up. That's what I want to say. Because when Jupiter goes over Chiron for the United States, it's going to have a ripple effect for everyone in the world, because it's going to stoke a wound somehow of the United States on an individualistic level. And I don't know if it's a huge wound or a little wound, but it also is going to give us an opportunity, the 7-year, to reflect on our beliefs about the information and the support and the nurturing of the citizens of each country in their own little worlds. I hope that made sense. Kind of felt a little bit, I started to go a little out there. All right, let's go on to our Tauruses. rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And ooh la la, when Jupiter moves into your house in a few months, your preparation for this is going to really bring in bounty. Because Taurus wants to see it in the material world too. Yay, music. Awesome. I bet you are a musician. I bet you that's why you did it that way. And I'll bet you that when Uranus moved into your house, it started blowing up any mundane stuff going on so you could connect into the deeper truth of your communication, meaning your voice out in the world. Okay, let's see, because you might be able to capitalize on that now when Jupiter goes into Taurus in a few months. Oh, so let's look at Taurus, the cup of love. My cup runneth over. I'm a Taurus moon as well. And I'm getting a little excited about the idea that as I'm aware of the movement right now in the stars, and I allow myself more of an ebb and a flow, that's what this water is going to represent, then when I have a moment of unsureness or insecurity, then I get to rewrite that. I get to reassess where that comes from instead of just having it slap me down. So I think there's a couple things going on, because I think that cup of love has very little to do with other people and more about this internalization of love that understands a deeper meaning of peace. I can't help but I look at this W in the middle, but it also looks really like an upside down M more than a W to me. And I feel like that's the me and the we of life. The we of our connection to spirit brings peace, brings bounty, and it brings trust in the creativity that I have as a me out in the world. Okay. Taurus, let's get some detail going on here. Oh, music hour. This is awesome. And it's nice that you have so much diversity within your creativity and your music, because this could be an opportunity for spirit to open things up and create a path for you. Oh, your nodal return, Stacy. I'm going to have a nodal return coming up pretty soon. And I've really made it an intention to experience all of these at their higher vibration versus feeling like the zodiac is constantly pulling me in a place of an uphill climb, All right, Taurus. The Ace of Wands is being joined by Bridget. I'm sorry, the Ace of Cups is being joined by Bridget. Fiona is also joining the party. Shanti, the Angel of Peace, and finally, Sonia. So Taurus likes to feel a sense of security, and having wild card Uranus transiting through your house for, years now, and with more years to go, can really set this sort of feeling of it's exciting, and yet it doesn't feel stable. It feels like there's always things flying out of nowhere. And so I think this is a little bit about giving you an opportunity to break up that feeling of, if I don't see it, if I don't smell it, if I can't touch it, then it isn't real. And I think that's where Uranus is starting to, when Uranus went over my ascendant is when I really became authentic to me. And at the time I wasn't studying astrology, so I wasn't aware of the transit. And it came as a result of a bit of a blowout. I was like sick of something. I'd had it up to here. So in the projection of the future and the transits coming ahead, I've really been told by spirit over and over again to seek the higher vibration of them, because the planets and their aspects are evolving as much as we are as humans. So this is about Taurus really seeking bounty, looking at how, if something has in many ways been disrupted, how did that disruption serve the bigger picture of what you really want? So Bridget is being joined by the Queen. Fiona is being joined by the Burden card. Shanti is being joined by the High Priestess. And Sonia is being joined by the Raven. Okay, so quick little story, because I've told you before, I'm 63 years old, and I wanted to be Teri for my whole life, meaning to do this work, to share these principles and these ideas with people. And yet I never had the patience to write a book or do anything that you would do in the 80s or the 90s. So as technology evolved, my opportunities grew. Where I'm going with this here is Bridget is asking you to look deeper, Taurus, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And the Queen is asking you to pay attention to your ability to receive without pushing forward in the world. Because the Queen here is waiting for that guy to bring him her cup of wine. She's listening to soft music played by others, and she has a sense of calm. And she's relaxed. And I think that is part of what Spirit is saying. The baton may not be in your hands right now. It's in Spirit's hands, and you're about to receive some sort of inspiration or some sort of epiphany, an idea. Something may come to you that you were unaware of before, or an opportunity. It's almost as if one domino piece had to fall before another could. Because Fiona is saying, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving, but there's the burden. And the burden comes from you wanting to take action to move the story forward. Now let's just consider that we've been living, since the end of 2022. We've had both planets of action and thought, Mars and Mercury in retrograde, really, really, kind of slowing the roll. So now this has offered Taurus an opportunity to really go into their inner knowing and to feel a sense of peace. This was the big question I had to ask myself this last, literally since last July. And if I looked at the transits, I'm pretty sure that's when Saturn started to be conjunct my Chiron. I really went into old stories of poverty and of loss and of humiliation. That would be some of the Chiron's effects on a negative side in Aquarius. So I've had to stretch myself into trusting a deeper picture and allowing that old story to unravel. And it's come through meditation, through connecting to Spirit, through being vulnerable to my own bad story, and then connecting with Spirit so that I could feel the self-love and the confidence to move forward. Because that's one of the challenges of being a Taurus. You're ruled by Venus. That rules my self-worth in the house of family history, and how people have affected us and our ability to believe in ourselves. And, we grow older and we think we can just forget about that story, but it isn't. It's the imprint. So here I say this because Sonia, your deceased loved ones and your guides, and there's the timing magic, the raven. The bones have been picked clean, and now it's time to get closer to your team so that you can really see your ability to receive. I don't think your action is a doing action at all, especially this week, but an evaluation and a declaration about what you want to feel and experience moving forward. So as I go deeper into the layers of what do I want to receive, then I go, I don't want money. I think I want money when I initially think it, but that feels flat. What I want is the flow of resources so that regardless of what I need in the moment, I know Spirit will provide for it in some way. And that becomes magical. That's where we use all these. I believe that the tarot, the astrology, numerology, so many of these things Spirit has given us so that we could grasp onto these tools and start to use them to empower ourselves. And the structures that be, like if you're a powerful person, right, and you know your power of creation, are you going to want to be enslaved to someone else's idea? No. So that is the old structure, enslaved to someone else's idea. Big corporations start with small companies with people who then employ other people, and the people at the top thrive in ways that maybe the people at the bottom don't always. And this is a co-creation thing. And these guys up here don't want these guys down here to be empowered because they need them to do that small task. So this is what's being broken up. And this is part of our historic human history. So as we look deeper into our ability to receive, we become more powerful and we become magical beings. All right. But it's not magical. It's our authentic, real truth of ourselves. It's why the soul incarnates. The soul does not incarnate to learn lessons or to be punished or to pay a karmic debt. The soul comes into this experience because it realizes that that fear, that unknowing is the very seed of empowerment and exhilaration and excitement and achievement and the tail wag. Because when we don't think we can do something and then we do it, we're so proud of ourselves. It's so fabulous. That's why we're here. Okay, on to our Geminis. Okay, let's go on to our Gemini rising moon, sun, and stelliums. This is the queen of thought. Gemini, I believe you're mastering your thought. You know, the thing about Gemini in some ways is because you're an information dispenser, you know, you're like, you know, Connie Chung. Oh boy, did I just age myself. You're like, I'm trying to think of a current newscaster. My name is, Colleen, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, whatever. Newscasters give short bits of information. They don't delve deep into the research of the story because they're giving all the information as it travels through the zodiac. So now we've seen Mars in Gemini for almost 7 full months, asking us to slow down, to be brave, to take a review of how do I think? And am I mastering my thoughts? Because there is a way to still facilitate small bits of information while at the very same time mastering information in a way of being able to discern that information, being able to look at it in a way that says, okay, this tells me that does this resonate with how I think in a master's level? Because I think Gemini is getting an opportunity to master their thoughts. And I say it this way. It's not being able to tame them, stop them, or rewrite them. It's your awareness of them. And does this thought serve me in this moment? And if it doesn't serve me, doesn't it serve me in the respect of me knowing that, well, I don't really need that thought anymore. So did I not just empower myself in that old story that didn't serve me by choosing not to think about it? That's huge. And practice makes perfect when it comes to that stuff. All right, Gemini. And if we look at this too, the card itself, pardon my manicure, I've been broke. Well, I'm going to say it. I don't like to declare it, but it's, you know, manicure had to go. So I apologize. But look underneath, because that cherub and the butterfly underneath her chair is really offering her to dig deep on a spiritual level to understand we're walking through a human experience. We're being imprinted before we even realize it. But that imprint gives us an opportunity to resurrect a new version of ourselves. Okay. Gemini, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Indriel is our first angel. The second is Isabella. The third is Seraphina. And the final is Bethany. Okay, here we go. Ooh. All right. Oh, Indriel's being joined by the dog as it flew out of the deck. Isabella's being joined by the Truth card. Seraphina is being joined by the Lady of the Lake, and Bethany is being joined by the Joy card. Okay, so this is where I think that this is an opportunity for Gemini to really be loyal to oneself, to be sincere beyond other people's assessment and evaluation of you. Because I do believe that there is an opportunity to really become a more masterful thinker, which makes you a more masterful speaker, which makes you a more masterful experiencer, which then takes all that travel around the zodiac and makes you a wonderful teacher. Because here, the Indriel is the light worker, but I believe this is about an epiphany, about your energy, about who you are and what you are, and almost, I want to say, demanding of self-love and loyalty. This is what is on the docket for you. You know, Gemini rules our teammates, our workmates, our communities, our neighbors, our siblings. In my particular family, my sibling, well, I don't necessarily think they love her more. She reigns through fear. So if you don't do what she wants, she's going to cut you off from her family. I did not provide a family for others to nurture. So she holds that position. And in doing so, there is dominion over it. I, on some level, had to make a different choice because to be absorbed by this was not serving me. I think this is about being loyal to yourself and knowing that as you are loyal to yourself, more and more support from spirit will come. Because Isabella is saying, yes, the timing is right for your truth, Gemini. Your truth is you are a valuable commodity. You're a valuable individual to yourself, and maybe there's just been a little bit going out more to others than there has been to you, and that could be your job, it could be your kids, it could be your own siblings, it could meaning you would need to caretake for a sibling who is compromised in some way, and yet we still must seek balance within this, because Seraphina is offering a happy change to your family. But I believe part of that is going through the storm of discovering yourself, and the loyalty to yourself is as valuable as your caretaking to others. And I don't know why I'm so focused on caretaking with Gemini right now. I think maybe it's your ruling planet being retrograde, and then Mars being retrograde in your house of self, really having to take a braver stance at what you want for you, and being a pioneer in some ways, because here is Bethany, which is all about you, and there's the joy card. So I want to say that I believe that there is a part of you that has not been taking care of yourself because of the things that are required of you in your everyday life. And now when you step back from that, and not about being shirking your responsibilities, it's about demonstrating self-care is the greatest gift you can give to others. It is a gift that gives them permission to take that same energy and say, I matter. This is the Aquarian age. This is the real revolution. The revolution is the revolution of the air element, where we're going to start to see more and more that as I take care of me, I have more time to take care of you. I have more bounty. I have more money. I have more resources. I have more and more and more. And it isn't because it all comes and it's stocked up in my bank account. It's because I believe and think in flow. And I think that things come to me effortlessly. And I've learned how to master the moments when there's a boogeyman in my head saying, are you sure? And you say, I don't have to be sure. I just have to be focused. I just get to be focused. I don't have to do anything. That's a catching yourself. That's a catching yourself moment. Okay. Here we go. On to our Cancer, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. You just had your full moon a few days ago. Here we go. Oh, our tarot card. Okay. The Knight of Swords. This is a little bit of a harsh energy. Things appear, when I look at this card, the first thing I think is that Cancer was like, whoa, dude, slow your roll. Put a little sugar on that, meaning it doesn't have to be all spicy and sour. So let's see, because there may be communications coming to you this week that feel a little bit blunt, or we have Mercury making an exact trine to Uranus this week, and that made me feel like there could be something that comes in the way of information that sort of comes at you in a harsh way, or feels a little abrupt, or not necessarily emotive. Sometimes you can say things with I don't know. I almost feel like somebody just says something so blunt. And you're like, well, wow, that was bad news. And you really had to be that rude when you said it to me. I don't know why I want to put it that way. Let's see what the spirit has to say. Because something feels a little bit like it's coming at you and it feels tough. Shanti, the angel of peace. Akasha, the teacher. Archangel Raphael. and Caressa. Okay, so this is what might happen for you. There may be, with Mercury coming at, retrograde, and this trine in play all week to Uranus in Taurus. So we've got Mercury in Capricorn. That's structure, that's history, that's father time, old things. Uranus is liberation, new things. There is in Taurus, again, history of some kind. You may encounter a communication or somebody's behavior in such a way that you actually no longer react to them because you realize that's how they show up. Shanti is being joined by the mystery card. Akasha is being joined by the Queen. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the Truth card. And Caressa is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. I'm going to tell you this. I'll bet you somewhere you experience something this week where somebody shows up in a way that's just so patterned. And for the first time in your life, you see the pattern and you don't take it personally. You're like, are you kidding me? There's so many different ways a person could react, because I think you're starting to choose peace. And maybe in the past, this way of being, this abruptness, this sort of blunt kind of laying it down the way they see it would throw you off. But now you're claiming your own peace. You're like, you know what? That's just how they roll. Because here is Akasha, the teacher, and there's the Queen. The Queen rules fertility. It rules reception. It rules feminine energy. And to me, this now feels like I'm going into my feminine intuition, where I suddenly, it's like, wow, I never realized that no matter what that person says. I have this neighbor, okay, and he's a nice enough guy, okay? He really is a sweet man. He doesn't mean any harm, but no matter the topic, he always sees the dark side, okay? He's always like, if I complain, they're going to evict me. If I do this, something bad, he's that perpetual, the sky is falling. And so when I first started talking to him, it was a little bit harsh. I was like, whoa, I didn't even realize what I was reacting to. And then when I saw the pattern, I started to tease him a bit and started to call him sunshine, because he's like a rainy day. So the truth gives Cancer an epiphany. The truth of some people are just the way they are. They've been trained and imprinted, and after years and years and years of them talking like that, it would take a freaking, semi-crane excavator to get them to see their own self-talk. Because here is Caressa offering Cancer the end of a life cycle. And now there's the Lady of the Lake. And this is the little bit of a storm inside of you, is this sort of realizing that person is that way and potentially loving that person or caring about them, and yet knowing you have no ability to change who they are. Only thing you can do is be aware of who you are in the moment and choose peace. And when I say choose peace, it could be like, I'm just not going to react to you, or I'm not going to try to talk you out of your problem, or I'm not going to even address your problem, because I know when I go into a conversation with your problem that we just exasperate the problem. But whatever it is, Cancer, there is a claiming. And I want to offer this too, because we have 7 full moons at the 16th degree, which is the Cancerian degree. So this is all about learning that nurturing of myself and trusting my inner knowing, even when it's in a wobble, because when it's in a wobble, I'm going to pause so I can have confirmation, is actually bringing more balance and more divinity into a situation. That's where I'm going. All right. Let's go on to our Leos, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Hi, Jen. All right, here we go. Okay, for my Leos. Now, this is interesting because the minute I said Leo, I've thought about Saturn is opposing your house, okay? So this energy of the 4 of Pentacles is where this guy has his bounty, he has resources, but he gets, he's holding them in a sort of an awkward way. So there's scarcity underneath. There's something here where he's not feeling confident in his bounty. And so he's holding, it almost feels as if he's holding his breath. So let's see where this is about. because I do believe that with Mars and Mercury, they're very rarely retrograde at the same time. And here, we're seeing a retrograde in the house of structure of, of, you know, Saturn in Capricorn wants to build in the material world to see its bounty. And here with Mercury retrograde, we're re-examining how that's done. And then Uranus is retrograde in Taurus. So there's this feeling of a little bit of Leo. You may be holding on to things from an old place. Like, I need to hold on to this because historically this has been what's happened to me. This is what I know. This is what I've been taught throughout my life. And now I get to sort of, let's see, I think we're going to rewrite that a little bit. Because what I said, okay, so Saturn is on my Chiron. The first time it went by, I was like really sad and I felt kind of depressed and like nothing was moving. The retrograde, I was more aware of the transit. So I was like, okay, how can I extract what historically has happened? Where has my wound been? Where do I sit on that wound all the time? And then as it's moved forward and it's like just a few degrees, I think it's a degree away from my Chiron now, I said to Saturn, let's get the reward now. Okay. You offer reward, but very rarely do the humans talk about your reward at any length. So I want to experience that reward because I'm tired of holding on to everything so tight as if I am not a co-creator of my experience, and I need to suck it up. I need to be. This feels very weird. It's almost like I have money and I won't spend it because I don't think I'm going to have any more, and yet that's vibration. And then the outside world would support that, meaning everything's in fear. Seraphina is a happy change to my family. Ariel's a new psychic experience. Archangel Gabriel is about my communication and security. And Archangel Michael is about protection and having courage. And if anything represents courage, it's Leo. Protection is joining Seraphina. Ariel is being joined by the spider. Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the deer. And Archangel Michael is being joined by the perception card. Okay, so I kind of want to put it this way for my Leos. Leo rules, self-expression, but there's a little bit of a slippery wobble because it's the performer. And if you don't have an audience applauding at your performance, it doesn't feel very good, right? So there is something going on where I feel as if Leo is looking outside of themselves to fix this stuck energy. What is coming from the outside world? What condition will change my situation? And here, Seraphina is the angel of happy changes. Okay, and here's the protection card. And I feel as if I pay attention to the protection card, it's a 38, which represents my thought process. So in order for me to have a shift, I've got to start to think: am I aligned to my own protection? Am I aligned to my own bounty? Am I aligned to the ebb and the flow of things? Because you're, Leo, being very much tasked to create and nurture the relationship you have with your inner being, with spirit, with the universe, with all that is that you cannot see with your eyes. Because now Archangel Gabriel is teaching you about communication. And are you being gentle and diplomatic with yourself, or are you allowing the fears, the unsureness that makes me feel like I have to hang on to whatever is my bounty right now? I need to hang on to that extra little bit of money because if I don't, it's going to disappear. Spirit is saying, that's a relationship. Are you going to have a relationship with that disappearing, or with that fear? Or are you able to actually be more diplomatic and say, okay, Spirit, I understand I'm walking through a human experience, which is making me feel slightly fearful about my bounty. And yet I know that I'm protected because I am a child of the universe. Because here is Archangel Michael asking Leo to own your own perception of things. The human brain is literally a muscle that is imprinted within the first 5 years. Some other human being tells you if you're good, if you're bad, if you feel loved, if you don't feel loved. And all of this is imprinted before you actually have mastered your own communication within the human experience. So, Leo, I believe that now is a time for you to start to look at, where do I think about, how do I think? Venus is at 7 degrees Aquarius, trining Mars and Gemini. So there's a lot of activity that is supporting a harmonious journey of self-discovery about my interior dialogue. And if my interior dialogue is really the truth of my heart, or if it's a bit of an imprint that's been given to me more now than ever before. How many versions of COVID can we have? And now there's XBO point blah, 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 blah. At some point in this year, this 7-year, humans are going to say, I'm tired of being vulnerable to all these outside sources. I'm going to start to think about my relationship with my thoughts. And those thoughts are evidenced through my experiences. And those experiences are lining up to source more. And I am courageous enough to really look at my own personal perception. Why did this suddenly get so dark? I don't know. All right. On to our Virgos, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. And I want to offer this just kind of as I'm shuffling. It's not about trying to be perfect. It's not about trying to get unstuck. I think sometimes that I say to Spirit, Spirit, while I know I'm not a physical being, that I'm an energetic being inhabiting a physical experience, right now I'm a little wobbly, and I would really appreciate if you could support an experience that helps shift my focus. These things, we're not being judged. So when we need help and support, Spirit understands that. And they're just not allowed to go, oh, she needs an experience. What they do is they just sit and hold space, and they wait for us to step out of our box. Okay, for my Virgos, the star. This is about faith. It's about a bit of vulnerability to that which cannot be seen, and yet that which you are nurturing with what is in front of you, what you're pouring your heart, your soul, your emotions into. This is also represents the Aquarian energy and faith. So let's see, Virgo. A lot of Virgos have experienced challenges with their health because of Neptune's opposition. So I think that this is also an opportunity to be vulnerable to that which you deem is expected of you, and that which you want to expect for yourself. Our first angel for Virgo is Bridget. The second is Shanti. The third is Isaiah. And the final is Archangel Gabriel. It's interesting. I want to say this for Virgo because I just had this sort of epiphany. When we look at this card, the character is pouring into the pool, which they can see. There is ripple, there is movement, and yet at the same time, it's circular. It's going around in a circle. So there's a familiarity, there's something that's happening repetitively, and yet the emotions that are underneath it have more avenues to feed more things. And I think for Virgo, there may be something where, and I said this about health, but I was really kind of keyed into not physical, but mental health, stress. Sometimes when we know that other people expect things of us, we stress out if we're not going to do what they want for us. And yet I'm tired. I don't have the energy or the desire, I don't want to do that for you. I want to do for me right now. And I think that that's where this is so important, because as you're vulnerable to that which you cannot see, but you can only feel, you're opening pathways that you would not have necessarily seen before or given yourself permission to experience. Bridget's asking you to look deeper into a situation. And I think that's about your personal happiness and how you're responding to what is expected of you versus what you want for yourself. When we look at the 6th house, we're expected to show up for work, right? Even doctors these days expect us to show up for those checkups and all that preliminary work to see if your body's cracking up and diseasing. Bridget is being joined by the letting go card. Shanti, Virgo, is being joined by the magical Merlin. Isaiah is being joined by the focus card, and Archangel Gabriel is being joined by the protection card. Virgo, rising moon, sun, and stellium, something beautiful is happening for you. Something is revolutionizing you. And this is really an opportunity to claim back your inner knowing. You're giving life, the dependability of the earth signs, the practicality is all related to earth structures that were built on imbalance. And now, as we walk into this Aquarian age, we are walking into an era which is not necessarily requiring constant balance, but the awareness of balance. And so here, I think that this is all related to Virgo being aware of being willing to look deeper into that which has stoked my fears, because the letting go card is the Let It Go song from Frozen. It's funny how some distance makes everything look small, and the fears that once controlled me can't get to me at all. It's time to see what I can do to test the limits, to break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. Again, this is what you cannot see, but you can only feel. And there are more pathways. They're not tried and true. They're not as big as the pool in front of you yet, but they can grow, because Shanti is offering you peace and balance. But part of that is your willingness to look and see what brings you peace and balance, because here is time to give birth to awareness of your focus. And your focus is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury rules short bits of information that have not been fleshed out completely. So we're in a heightened state of fear right now on this planet. The news is riddled with imbalance and kookalicious things going on. And as we absorb those short bits of information, we internalize them inadvertently, and then we start to project our own lives that way, because Archangel Gabriel is asking you to really turn over your insecurities, know that you're protected, because you are starting to be aware of your focus. And this is going to be so incredibly powerful, because in past eras, we didn't have such broad ability to connect with others that think like us or don't think like us. And as this becomes more, we go more into the Aquarian age, this star rules Aquarius. It rules thinking outside the box. And there's a huge vulnerability attached to that. And I find it so interesting that oftentimes we put a feminine energy when we go into this feeling of nakedness. We saw it in the world here, because this is about coming from the heart, and nothing represents that more than the female breasts and the receptivity of the female experience. So here, as you look deeper into what you have been fears, are those fears mine? Have they been given to me? Is this true? I'll tell you this, okay? So as I have aged, I am more aware of food, okay? And I know I don't drink as much as I used to drink, because I basically don't like the sugar effect of it, because my body doesn't respond the same way. It also comes from back when I used to wish I would die. So when I drank, I had that vibration going. Now when I drink, I wish I would live. I like my life more. So this is also why I think that the alcohol doesn't respond the same. My point is, for Virgo, you are going through a metamorphosis that is allowing you to really differentiate between your service to others and your service to yourself that actually helps support others more. And there's a certain amount of vulnerability and viability to that. And the viability you can't see with your eyes right now. You can only feel it with your heart. And as you trust that, Spirit will come in and bring more opportunities for you to focus on that, which will then support those dreams in a stronger way. Okay. Jay Sean, thank you so much for joining the room. I have to tell you, you made a comment on one of my videos that literally brought me to tears in a good way. Sometimes people say things and I don't feel my value. I don't know if I'm, producing anything people are resonating with. And Jay Sean, you made a comment that made me feel super special. So thank you so much for that. My Chiron Saturn situation has made me have all sorts of thoughts. All right, let's go into our Libras, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Okay, Libra, not the easiest energy. I'm going to say it. 10 of Swords is about drama. Drama, 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 drama. And it's overkill. And the thing about the swords is when I was learning the tarot when I was young, strife and struggle, and I thought that was coming to me. No, not an oh poop, Stacy. No. This is great. This is actually an opportunity to identify where there's going to be others that potentially are overly dramatic in your life. And that let's look and see, but this is what I think. First of all, I'm a Libra sun. This last week, I was a little dramatic in my going down the dark side. And then I pulled myself off the ledge because I realized I'm being overly dramatic. I think so too, Music Hour. I think what it does is it identifies where I'm stuck in a pattern and where I've been like, oh no. Well, I don't know if it necessarily means a rainbow is coming. That infers a death, but I don't think that's true. So let's see. Our first angel is Ashanti of peace. The second is Desiree. The third is Seraphina, a happy change to my family. And the final is Ariel. The reason I don't really agree with you, CJ, is because this time with Mars retrograde and Mercury retrograde, I think our patterns are being stoked, our historic patterns. And I think most of us have historic patterns of loss or of having to pay some sort of big price for our happiness. And I think that's where this is coming in, because the 10s are always offering us a new beginning. And while this is not a one, it's the culmination of a cycle that allows me to be more aware of the human thoughts that have been imprinted on me versus the spiritual thoughts that I have organically that I've discounted. Shanti is being joined by the Perception card. Desiree is being joined by Merlin. Seraphina is being joined by Movement. And Ariel is being joined by the Earth Fairy. So I really think that this is, I think that having faith and being authentically positive is an alignment of thought that brings more of that in. So I think that's not only nothing wrong with it, it's also an opportunity here. This is where I think this 7 year of reflection is where we're going to realize that we are being stoked in a super dramatic way. So now let's talk. This is Libra. Libra represents balance. This card represents imbalance. So here, Shanti, the angel of peace, and the Perception card. Shanti is a Libran energy. And what do we realize? Peace comes from our perception. I can't help get images of Gandhi sitting in prison for years, and Nelson Mandela sitting in prison for years. And was it Gandhi? Wasn't Gandhi in prison as well? I know it was Nelson Mandela, but this is a place where you find peace inside an inner being beyond the physical, because Merlin talks about magic, talks about alchemy and balance, and there's Desiree. And I feel like what Spirit is saying is that right now, the outside world is going to become more and more dramatic before this cycle of awareness ends. So here we have an opportunity through our own perception to foster peace, regardless of the conditions. I can be a magical person, because here is Serafina again offering a happy change to my family. Here's movement. And how does that happen? Because I know I'm a spiritual being, and now I'm anchoring that into my earthly experience, and I am demonstrating. I am a Libra sun. I know more and more that the only way I feel my balance sometimes is to be out of balance. Have I been out of balance this last week? Yes. Did I be able to identify that I was being dramatic in ways that were triggering an old story that's no longer true? Last time the nodes went through Scorpio, Taurus, and Libra, Aries, I lost everything I own. Every single little thing except my cats and a suitcase of belongings. There's a part of me that jettisoned back 20 years ago and put myself in that exact same dynamic. It's not true. It's not true because the stars are not aligned the same. I'm not the same person, and I've learned things, but there are layers of it that are true, where I have been overly dramatic or vulnerable to my story, and I've made that the platform even within my growth. So now I get to go deeper and deeper into my own perceptions that offer me peace and anchor those spiritual experiences into the physical world. And I do that because I realize I'm an alchemist. It has nothing to do with the conditions or with the drama that's coming at me. I refuse to accept your drama. All right, here we go. On to our Scorpios. I know it feels easier said than done, but I think this is also where we start to decipher some of the things that foster the drama. There is, like, I don't like to listen to the news too much because the news is inflammatory. It feeds our fears. So I also tend to notice this. When I click on something, then it shows up. I'm on an algorithm. And if it's something that I have trepidation about, then the news articles keep coming on my feed to feed my fear. This is where I'm going with this idea. So the inner peace is right, but I'm not gonna click on those things anymore. I was looking, been a lot of things coming up lately on my feed about, is my retirement fund normal? Am I up to speed like my peers? Do I have enough money in the bank? Well, I already know the answer is no. In a big way, it's no. And then that tasks me to go into my Libra sun and say, am I going to fall victim of all of that? Or have I spent a lifetime amassing my IRA account through spirit? And do I not know already that I will manifest in a way at this age where I've never manifested before? Because now is the time when it matters. If I would have amassed all my money when everybody else was doing it, I say, see, look at my money's in the bank. But what if the idea that I'm 63 years old and my money's just starting, my bounty is just starting to grow? Thank you, Michelle. Because this is where we all stand, in this place of really looking at whether we're going to give into the old structures or whether we're going to start to give life to the new ones that start with the age of the mind. All right. Sorry. Get on my little soapbox. Scorpio, the Queen of Cups. This absolutely represents you and the mastery of your intuitive and emotional body. Let's look and see. Because as the South Node has transited your house on a mundane level, loss, everything's going to feel like loss. But what if that loss is really the loss of things that are dominant over you, that have inadvertently overpowered you and given your power away to somebody else? My mother, and I don't know if this is a true story, she's my biological mother and I don't have anything really to do with her, but my grandfather gave my aunt and his two daughters a substantial amount of money because he basically did not believe when he died that they would be able to take care of themselves. And within, I don't know, a few years, my mother's money was gone. And it was a substantial amount of money. Her claim was that she gave it to a financial advisor to invest, and he stole all her money and ran away. These are the kind of things that Scorpio represents, giving your power to someone else, giving your power away. Oh, they know what they're doing. They'll take care of me. They care about me. And I'm not saying to be suspicious, but I think this is really about mastering self-care on an intuitive level. Pardon my manicure. Our first angel is Xana, the angel of protection. Scorpio, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Azure, your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. Seraphina is coming up again in the same position every time. Happy change to your family is being offered to us as humans. And Maya, schooling and education. Okay. Xana is being joined by the frog. Azure is being joined by the spider. Seraphina is being joined by the dog. And Maya is being joined by the truth. Okay. So, what we see with the queens, oftentimes we see a cherub underneath the chair. And this is sort of what sits beneath us. With the cups, we also see the little baby mermaids at the top of her throne. And I feel as if when I look at that, this is really an opportunity to dig deep into my intuitive body. Now let's talk a little bit about Scorpio. Scorpio sees what is beneath the surface. The challenge is when Scorpio sees what's beneath the surface and they don't like it and they want a different outcome, they will ignore that. And so I believe that what is going on for Scorpio is that Xana is offering you protection as you are willing to clean up and look at things as you view them from your intuitive body. I dated somebody years ago. When I turned 50, I had a meltdown. Aging is a weird mind melt, I'll tell you. I don't really mind aging, but at the same time, I feel like the reaction of others surprises me. So when I turned 50, I freaked out and I found the first man who seemed stable to me, not a fun person necessarily, really like a saltine cracker of a person. Okay. Dry, not that much fun, nice looking enough, and inadvertently, without realizing it, my fears, this was sitting underneath me. My fear of aging and the choices I'd made me move towards that person in a way that I felt a certain amount of, if I could be in that relationship with that person, I would be safe. This was not true. So when I go down to Scorpio being protected, as you become aware of the deeper motivations that you have, because Azure says that your desired outcome will happen in the near future. And if that is feeling connected to others, if that is starting a partnership or actually nurturing a partnership that you're currently in, this is about focusing in on what you need on a really authentic level, because Seraphinus is a happy change is coming to your family, and there's unconditional love, loyalty, and sincerity. And in the final position is the Truth card and Maya. So if in this last year, or the last year and a half of this transit of the South Node, if you've experienced loss in this house, then there's the potential that you've lost something that was really not serving your happiness, but was a mirage of some kind. And as you're willing to dig deeper into your own intuitive knowing, because you are the great psychologist, you are the profiler, you are Columbo, you are that person who walks into that crime scene and completely sees things from a different place. So if you look into your own world, how do I receive love? Am I really playing to the truth of my heart and what I want? I think you're going to manifest it. I think you're going to manifest it in a material way, because now the South Node becomes this amazingly spiritual dynamic where when you have broken down the ego structures that man created that will determine your value, you now will step into a place of your own value, which transforms 100% that Scorpio energy into power, and power in the way that produces billionaires, produces bounty. to be seen in the material world. For the most part, I think you're learning about in this moment. I think what this is talking about is you coming into a very strong relationship with your wants and desires and really determining whether you believe them viable from the truth of your heart or from what you're seeing in the outside world and what other people are telling you. Because if you're at that age where you're between 30 and 40 and people are starting to tell you your eggs are dying and you're not going to be able to find a partner because statistics say, I think you need to tell them what to do with the statistics and start to really call forth the truth, because you're being protected from living an experience that you ultimately would not thrive in. All right, let's go on to our Sagittarius' rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. That's our last sign for today. And when we come back, I think we're still going to be we'll still be in just the tail end of Capricorn, going into our Aquarius season. All right, our tarot card for our Sagittarius is the Fool. Now, I always think that this is Mars to me. Okay, look at, if anything, this guy's going on an adventure. He doesn't know where he's going. He's just full of excitement and naivete. He's not the least bit concerned. He's traveling light and he's keeping his eye on the stars. Now, that cliff ahead of him, let's see, because it may not be as big a cliff as we think it is. Although from here, it sort of does look a little bit like that. Woo. All right. Our first angel for Sagittarius is Azure. The second is Caressa. The third is Yvonne. And the final is Bethany. Aurora and the Focus card are together. Caressa and the Wasp, Yvonne and the Owl, Bethany and the Partnership card. Okay, so when I look at the Fool and I think about the idea that, to me, it's Mars. Mars is a pioneer. I don't see Mars as its cranky energy here in the Fool. I see that pioneer. I see that willingness to sort of break ground. Now I want to offer it this way, because the human would be like, oh my goodness, you're going to fall off the cliff. Look where you're going. And yet this guy is headed, he's got his face towards the sun. Well, not towards the sun, it's behind him, but he's in the sky. He's looking towards what is the truth of who he is. If I can imagine it, I can create it. I can go on the adventure. And the thing about this that I'm saying here is that I don't think that this Fool is representing as much potential danger here as one might think, because Aurora is saying you're flying high right now. Don't descend. You will soon inspire others because you're focused. I see him as being focused on a bigger truth of his alignment to source energy, which protects him from any foibles that may happen on the earth plane, because you're done being pissed off. You're done being frustrated. You're done with this. Sagittarius rules the connection to the angelic realm. It rules the questions like, who am I? Why am I here? What's the point? It rules in many ways a faith in that which cannot be seen, which can be anchored into the 10th, 11th, and 12th houses. So here, I think you're done being annoyed. I think you're done being frustrated by outside influences, sources, information, data, because Yvonne is about trusting a vulnerability. And a vulnerability here with the Owl is your ability to decipher. But this deciphering does not come from a knowing. It comes, or from an earthly knowing. It comes from a different knowing. It comes from you know what? In this moment, I'm going to, how do I want to phrase this? I almost feel like the Fool is referring to going on an adventure that has nothing to do with the earthly experience, but more about applying spiritual principles on the earthly plane, which may seem like I'm about to go over a cliff in my naivete, but in some way I've been learning, Sagittarius, about my focus. And while I've been watching myself go back and forth and I've been frustrated with myself, that chapter is ending because I'm becoming more vulnerable to the ebb and the flow. I understand that is a natural law of the universe. And so I've come into partnership with myself. Now, let me rephrase this a little bit, because in this last few months, and I've said to Spirit, I'm so tired of my story of woe begone. I'm so tired of my story of struggle. And I had in a meditation, Spirit say, this is the first time, Teri, that you've been in struggle and people are watching you, meaning on YouTube. And so this is an opportunity for you to demonstrate experientially what that means and how you go back and align into your focus. So when I get nervous, I don't look at my bank account to see if there's money in it. I look to Spirit to see where my alignment is. And then I can trace that back. And then I realize that the best way to take care of myself is to be in partnership with my own focus, which continually teaches me that I can reach heights I've never reached before. When Spirit, or I guess I want to put it this way, when I became aware of the south nodes going through this axis, I was not paying attention to it when it was going through the Capricorn Cancer axis or the Sagittarius Gemini axis. But the minute it came into the axis of Scorpio, where my Mercury was, I started to tee myself up and wait to experience loss of my community. And it happened. A lot of it did happen. And while I watched some of the people that were my clients go away, I also realized that there was imbalance in those relationships. And a lot of it was me being overly invested and maybe them being overly invested in themselves. So now we've got two energies invested in something outside. And that was reflective of me still not trusting my value. So I was over delivering and waiting for something else to give me my value. This is the evaluation and the opportunity to be a fool, Sagittarius, to go into a realm that doesn't make sense in the earthly world. It's a little Aquarian, and yet at the same time, it's Sagittarius moving into the Aquarian age. So that's what I want to say. I think on the books here for this week is, while there's not a lot, while Mars will station direct, it's not going to feel that different to me because we're sitting at this 8th degree for almost the whole month. So this 8th degree feels more Scorpion. It feels more reflective. It feels more looking at the deep psychology of how I think, where my anger and resentment tethers me to an old story, and where my opportunity is to liberate myself from that old story because it's not actually current to today. So that's what I got for y'all. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Small Wildflowers. I can't do this show without you. You're a mainstay for me. I will do my best, Jay Sean, to talk more about the degrees. I do think that they are really bring detail into the situation. I think I almost jumped out of my skin when I realized all those full moons were at the 16th degree. So I really think this, and all in the lower hemisphere, from Aries to Libra, because whatever is closing, whatever illuminations those full moons are giving us, it's going to take us into that upper hemisphere. So, all right, guys, I'll be back next week, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Please like, please subscribe, please share. I appreciate it so much. I'm working hard to build the channel. I really want it to thrive and to be of service to you in the highest and most powerful way. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a wonderful week. Peace